Welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave.
And Mackie on WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com, where it's more than just radio. So jump in the chat room if you can. Show number 300, talking
Yay!
about the hypothesis, but we're also going to chat to our very good friend Solaris, who is with us here. That's great. I did miss the music, Dave. That's why I didn't get my cue. My apologies. It's on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio. Okay, we've got great audio. That's awesome. If you missed Solaris' show, it doesn't matter because she's here. That's funny. It only costs $5 a month to access the Freedom Slips archives, and you can check out our shows. You can check out all the other host shows, in fact, including our own. But there's some really awesome shows, and you really should check out Solaris if you haven't already. And I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners, the traditional custodians of the land,
right.
which for me are the Daruk people, and for Dave,
The Dark and Young.
And we pay our respects to elders past, present, and future.
Hey, Mackie, can I add something? Can I add something to
Please,
that?
Go ahead.
Beneath our feet, beneath the concrete and beneath the bitumen of where Mackie and I walk, where our houses are, where the cities are stories and education and a care for the land unlike anybody else. So that is why we respect the custodians of the land. The propagation of those stories.
And they've been here for some people now think it's 90,000 years, maybe longer.
Right.
So that's a long.
That's something.
Long.
Thing,
long. It's a thing. It's a long time. So look, it's show number 300, which means we're approaching the end of our 6th year on the air, which will come up, I think, March time frame, and we'll start our 7th year on the air. Who would have thunk it? In the meantime, though, the great thing is that the hypothesis has taken on some interesting shape. But enough about us. Solaris, thank you very much for joining us for show number 100. You were here for 100. For show number 300. Thank you so much for making the time, of course.
Oh, my pleasure. It's always a pleasure to hop on board with both of you. I love your show, and it's congratulations. Long time, 6 years.
I know, right?
That's like, I think it's me too. Oh my gosh. I think I've been over here just as long. We started around the same time, so yeah.
You must have started just out of kindergarten then, right? That's what happened. And for us as well, I mean, it's look, 6 years is a long time to do a thing and still have something to say. I think look, what it does tell us all, I think, is just how mysterious and completely unknowable even the world is, or reality, whatever you want to call it. And there's so many things we just never taught by anyone, right? Solaris, I mean, it's just we have to discover for ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Everything that we've been taught has been basically a false matrix. So you have to decode and take down the veil, and we've been doing a really good job of that, if you ask me.
Well, I think you're right, but I think I hope our listeners feel the same way. I really do, because it is important to understand that we are not, in fact, living in the world that everybody thinks we're living in. Right? This is probably the one thing that we can say with absolute certainty, and you can take that on any level that you like. By the way, guys and girls, for that matter. When I say guys, I mean guys and girls. It's just a figure of speech, and I do the same thing at work. I constantly tell people I mean guys and girls, but the point is that we need to peel back on every layer. So that goes from a very simple thing like everyday television. There's no way that's reality, right? It's not. It simply isn't. Then the news, that's not reality. Then history, as we're taught, right, in school, that's not what happened.
That's not reality either.
Well, it isn't, right? But it really, it's that simple. It's that simple, and then you start digging, and I welcome you to join us in our trip down the rabbit hole. But do be aware that it's dangerous. And I had recently I told you, Dave, the personal experience of a close person to the family discovering all these things for the first time, and it was, in my opinion, it resulted in information overload. But like it's the person just wasn't equipped, I think, to take it all in, and now it's just it's like watching someone pinballing, off the walls, going, "Oh, hey, bong, do you know about this? Bing and bong," and it's all over the shop. Anyway, I've been monopolizing the floor. How have you been, my friend?
Me? Oh, yeah, good. No problems. I've been tracking some news. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say, Solaris, you had a great show once again. And I know you're with us. I know you're with us. But
Thank you.
Every week we say you have a great show, because you do. You have a fantastic show.
Well, thank you. Likewise, so do you all.
I do not know how you get so many people lined up for your show. It's just
I don't
crazy. It really is. We haven't had a guest for quite some time, and we're trying really hard to get some of the big names, the rock star genre people in the paranormal field, and it is tough. They're booked up and busy, and they only want to do it when in their time, and their time doesn't match this time. So yeah, That's pretty tough. Hey, Meki, so I've been following something. I've been following the sonic booms that are getting reported all around the planet, in all the countries.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's quite incredible. So the sonic booms are registerable, as were the ones that were like every Wednesday in California when they were flying the SR-71, coming back in over Catalina and then flying into Edwards. And that as it decelerated in the atmosphere, it would cause these sonic booms, and they were registered on the Richter scale. However, people are reporting this stuff everywhere now, all across the planet: Australia, Canada, the US, continental US, and in England, just to name a few. Is there another program on that we're unaware of? Is this the dirty space part, where smaller objects, bigger than dust particles, smaller objects are meteorites, are burning up, and we're just waking up in the middle of the night to it? I wonder what it is, because I don't know. But they're being reported everywhere, but you'll find the newspaper article, but it never hits the 6 o'clock news. There's no surprise there. But when you start to, you Google the news for, sonic booms, and everyone's talking about it, but no one is talking about it, if you know what I mean. It's there, but it's not being reported in such a way. So I just think that's quite extraordinary. And look, it's not unlike all the other things that we've brought to light. And this is what's the version of news that makes you happy? And that's what your Facebook's delivering to you.
Yeah.
It's now so algorithmized, that's a new word, algorithmized, that you're just being patted on the head by Facebook and telling you, what you want to hear, not what shocks you, what makes you happy. And that's now becoming smaller and smaller and smaller until we're all just mindless automatons going to work and doing our thing, and that's the end of that.
Look, I hear you, and just very quickly, because there's just some breaking stuff from the chat room. Mm-hmm. I would like everybody who's listening to be aware that we have a new domain and website. So guys, listen up. It is now www.revolution.radio. Again, www.revolution.radio. That is the new site, guys, for Revolution Radio. Revolution.radio. Okay, cool. I appreciate it. Thank you. That's, in fact. Sorry to jump in here, but the new site that Hawk and the others built is really cool. I like the chat as well. I've gotten used to it now. So even though I've got the picture of a kitten there, I don't know why. But yeah, so that's good. Look, but Dave, look, you're right. And the question is, what I want to know is though, what are those sonic booms? Solaris, have your guests ventured any theories around the?
Interesting.
Yeah, go on.
No, I was going to say I haven't done much research on that, and I have not heard much from my guests insofar as anything going on. So I did get 2 jets flying over my house, really low this morning. So that's all.
I saw you talking about that.
Yeah. That was interesting. They were really low. They were so low. My cats from upstairs ran from the loft down. They got pretty scared. So, but it was pretty cool to watch. But I don't know what's going on. Could be a drill.
It could be. It's interesting. I mean, I find it as interesting and mysterious as the columns of light that are photographed in cities and other places, like that just go from the earth to the sky. Dave, you know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. It's just one of those things where you go, oh, well, that is strange. Why isn't everybody all over that? Why? Well, is it just me that thinks it's strange? Clearly, right? So look, and this goes back to my initial statement around reality. We are being force-fed. No, that's not true. It's no longer being force-fed to us. We are now on the drip, and we're asking for it. Okay, we're actually on the drip, and we're asking for the heroin to flow, the reality heroin to flow into our veins. Okay, we're now, in fact, asking for that poison to come and cloud our minds.
We're pushing the morphine button.
We're pushing it like the good Pavlovian mice and rats that we are. And
every
look,
time we hit like.
Yeah. Oh.
There
There's
you
that.
go.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
Tweeting and all that. I mean, we say we are more connected than ever, but in reality, we are more disconnected than ever. I've seen some really, and I don't know if you've seen this as well, Solaris and Dave, but close to home, people that I know very well have suffered from cyberbullying to the point where the child, a young girl, I guess sort of just a teenager, had to undergo treatment, and still is, in fact. It is shocking, because the thing is, back in the olden days, Dave and I, we might get bullied. I'm sure you didn't, Solaris. I think you were like a very sporty kind of person. So
yeah,
you probably
I don't think they'd live very long.
Right?
It's an Aries in me.
That's it. No, but yeah, look, that's right. But I was bullied for various reasons. But I could go home, and there was sort of a feeling of safety, if you will. Now, that is completely. That's completely gone, because you turn on your machine or your phone. That's how kids communicate these days, and you can't escape this. You can't escape the bullying. In fact, it's worse, because you probably bully someone worse if you're anonymous, or if there's a screen between you and them, right? So it's really it's disturbing where we are, and we are, by the same token, we are more disconnected than ever. Yes, we're more connected, but we're also because we no longer seek the personal interaction that we used to in the olden days, like going out with our friends all day long, right? Solaris, that's a problem.
Yep. Yeah, and it truly is. I see that here in the States too. I mean, there's a lot of cyberbullying going on, and a lot of kids are getting pushed around. Well, a lot of kids go and commit suicide. That's no good. So that's like, pushing somebody into something like that is, that's murder, point blank. So
it is. But it is, but you know what? And this is really interesting as well, because we've touched on it. We have now advanced so far in science and technology that our ethics, our morality, our legal system, our laws, our courts are no longer keeping up, right? I mean, all these things we can do these days, a transgender person, or you can even change your gender assignment if you wanted to altogether, right? Even if you're not transgender, or cloning is not possible, or longevity is possible. All these things that are coming our way, and technology-wise, I mean, there's like cyberbullying, cyber crimes. Our capabilities have outstripped our ability to deal with them on a societal basis. We can no longer deal with the problems we have created for ourselves, because they came too quick. They just came too quick. It's just, wow, bang, bang, bang. Okay, so what do we do here? Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. And every law that we see on cybersecurity, cyber crimes, genetic laws, laws that would have horrified people from a moral and ethical standpoint 100 years ago, are there. Right? What do we do? I don't know.
Pull the plug.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I would do. It gets to that level where you just kind of have to reset everything. It needs a reboot, as both of you guys being technical like you are. I would say that's the same thing. And you talk about the cyberbullying, and then where I've been with interface with technology. So that's another aspect to things that can go wrong and very quickly. So I think everybody's completely calibrated to technology, but now it's out of control. And as you were saying, there's no real consciousness there. There's no stream of consciousness between people. It's all virtual field. And that is a big problem in my opinion. And this whole idea about gender identities, I mean, it's just going to get to the point where people are going to have serial numbers for identification and like THX 1138, I swear.
Yeah, THX 1138. Yes, absolutely. Mickey, I just want to jump in. I was rewriting an IT policy document recently for a client. And I was really surprised to see the way that the wording was for the internet policy. It just said internet and email. Well, the staff should remain, only use it for work purposes, blah, blah, blah. Didn't mention anything about social media. Didn't make mention anything about blogs and posting and Twitter, and had none of that because it didn't exist when it was written. And the forward thinking of that policy was nil. It was, okay, well, we've got internet and we've got email. Okay, that's it. And I couldn't see how that could translate to today. So I've had to reinvent the wheel with it, right? And create it so, negatively impacting upon the business and this and that and being able to use it. I think everyone accepts now that you should be able to use some of the work internet for personal use, whether it's social media or whatever it is. And I couldn't believe that the mentality, though, Mickey, the change in there was no fear of the internet back then, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's different. Now we stand back with our hands in the air and go, hey, you know what? It's not the happy place you think it is. It's full of things that can get at you. So, you know what? I'd probably turn it all back off again.
Absolutely.
I just can't believe that it's gone the way it has. I think because initially it was all made with IT and by IT and everything's great, and then I don't know, some smart people got off the rails and started making it bad, and now it's fraught with danger. Emails, just a simple email is fraught with danger. And ransomware.
Okay, my accountant actually.
You know what I mean?
That's
right?
exactly it. He was completely. I mean, our accountant Dave, I should say, had a ransomware attack, and he lost some of his data. Not our data, luckily, but he did. For example, right? And you're correct. Now, having said that, though, I mean, the internet, of course, started as a military undertaking, right? It was a military endeavor, and the military internet is now. Okay, think of it like this. Let's say, think of a football field, right? You all know a football field. If you spray paint a white dot on that football field, that's the internet as you know it. The rest of the football field is the military internet. That's about the size of it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's massive, it's gigantic, and it was in fact designed initially to make sure that we keep up communications in case of a nuclear strike. So that was really the original purpose of the internet was to survive a nuclear strike.
So a self-routing, changeable, dynamic network that you can connect to from anywhere on the planet and still be operational. And that was the entire design for it.
That's correct. So HTTP, HTML, using DNS and well, back then WINS as well, of course. But anyway, all that routing stuff, all that intelligent routing that we see today as well. In fact, software as software-defined networking, is taking the next step there. But anyway, that's boring. Nobody cares about that.
SD-WANs, Mickey. SD-WANs,
right?
Yep.
but there we are, and so we have taken something, and I mean, look, the internet was always a place of I don't know, dubious exploits. I mean, people always like to have illicit sites. In fact, it completely killed the magazine. The adult magazine industry, really, to the point where Playboy's now actually just bringing articles back, right? They're just doing articles, I think, unless they've changed the format again. Yeah, no, they're no longer doing nudie pictures. Or, at least that was the last I heard. So yeah, you really are buying it for the articles now. It's now the truth. It's now the truth.
Now no longer a lie. Okay, so So, Meki, this is the thing, right? So, you're right, and I'm getting back to your point again, and I'll give it back to you, and that is that my example showed that something written not even 5 years ago was now already out of date. I don't know how. We're coping with this, like you said, from a legal standpoint or from a policing standpoint. It's actually quite difficult. Everyone's talked about Internet version 2. Everyone's talked about this, I hate saying the term, but Internet of Things. That just means where things are connected to the Internet. That's all that means, right? Where everything's online. But I'll tell you, that little Amazon device, I'm not bagging at Amazon. I'm sure we're all exactly the same. The iOS thing and the Android thing, even if you put it onto mute, it will tell you after a while, hey, you know what, I'm on mute. Because it knows you're in the room. It hears you talking. And there's no smarts on board on that thing, whether it's the Amazon, the iOS, or the Android thing, the Google thing. There's no smarts in there that's actually doing any voice translation. That voice translation is online, which means a server somewhere is receiving your telemetry from your house 24/7. 24/7 it is. Okay? So this is what shocked my friend who had the device in his house, and he's just talking away, and he decided to mute it because every once in a while it would think he was saying something referring to the unit. He goes, stuff that I don't want that anymore. So he'd put it on mute. And then it said to him, oh, by the way, I'm on mute. I'm muted. And
There's actually something interesting.
But I muted it. So
Wow.
but it's not actually muted. It's just a switch on the side that says, I don't wish you to interact with me for a while. Then it starts interacting with you regardless. This is that Skynet thing. We're so close. It's almost there. Or we're already in it.
Take the battery out. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Unplug it.
Just on that, then I want to throw it to Solaris because I have her here, so I'm going to make use of it. But recently I spoke to someone, and this is a fairly serious person, but on the same wavelength as us, which is great. But anyway, but this is a person that also knows a lot of people. I mean, an enormous amount of people. And this person told me that, Mackie, do you know about the invisible people? I said, no. Yeah. One of my clients, he said, is an invisible person. I said, oh wow. I'm thinking, is this some kind of joke, or maybe it's some kind of insane person? No, what it is, he explained to me. The Australian government has in their employ people, men, women, whatever, that are essentially very nondescript, everyday, average people that you would completely forget if they pass you in the street. Like you meet them once, you forgot them because they're just so commonplace. They're so average. They don't dress in a loud manner. They don't talk in a loud manner. They act very quietly. But their job is exactly that: to blend in and listen to everything. Listen to everything. How about that? That's their job. That's what they have to do as a living. And they're employed by the government. They walk around in Sydney. There's a person over there, or maybe there's a few people congregating. Let's listen in. Let's see what's happening. That's the job, Dave. Solaris, did you guys know that? I mean, that's a thing.
Well, I've heard of Sci-Spy. That's what I was interconnected with. But you're just talking regular people that aren't plugged into technology that are just spying with their own ears, right?
Yeah, just regular.
Wow,
folk, regular
interesting.
folk, right?
That's old school. What happened to high-tech stuff? I should be like really paid well.
I know. So tell us about your experience, because I want your take on this whole. I guess we've now started talking about the transparency, or at least to the powers that be, of everything, right? Whereas we have no transparency. I mean, you've got a few unique insights, Solaris. You've got a few unique experiences, certainly even within the specialized field that you have the most experience in. I don't want to take too much away, but what is your take on all of this, and what do you think is done with the data, and where's it all going?
It seems very strange. I don't know if they're doing it for corporations and maybe for sales and marketing. Who knows? It depends on what they're sitting in on so far as conversations go. I do know the Sci-Spy technology is for everything. It's basically hacking everything in your environment, right down to getting access codes and keys and all sorts of information based on your bank account and your personal, whoever you communicate with. They're the eyes and ears of who you are and what you do. So to me, that's it's not as bad as being interconnected with technology with the sci-spies, because they're wired. I mean, like, they can just walk around and absorb everything and have the communication system interconnect everything, just like what you were talking about with that device, except the device is the person. So I'm not sure what they're up to, other than the fact that they're just nosy. And you know, how much data do you really need from people? We can get everything on their computers anyway if we really want to. I mean, you all know that we can use backdoors and access anything. So what do they really need, and what are they looking for? And so far as just a regular Joe's conversation. But you know, y'all, I'm sure y'all are familiar with the microphones in certain areas in parks and also downtown, where they have actually microphones where they can record people's conversations who are sitting around out there. They do that here. I know that in some of the areas in town. So that's a possibility as well. You don't need a real person there. You have microphones all set up around. You have that? I don't know if you have that where you are.
I know we've put some emergency equipment in, which includes speakers and tons of triangulation. Now they're launching on the 5G thing, where these odd-looking towers look like, I don't know, like the torch used for the 2000 games in Sydney.
That's going to be very interesting. The 5G. What is your take on 5G, both of you? I'd like your information as far as what your impression is.
Well,
go ahead,
Mick.
No, look. 5G. We are moving into an age where data transmission will become the most important thing, and the speed, I should say, of data transmission, content, right? And the faster we get, and the bigger the pipe is relatively, the more data comes through. Having said that, a couple of things people don't realize. Number one, the computer you buy in the shop these days is completely useless. Meaning, you're buying something that you will never use to its full capacity. Okay, ever. The compute power and the storage and the memory in there, completely beyond anything that you need, unless you play games which require lots of 3D rendering or whatever. That's different. Secondly, the data throughput, in fiber optics, 5G, is well beyond, especially if it's a well-planned and well-built network, is well beyond what we need on a regular basis every day today. Like, on an every day today basis, we don't, unless you're downloading 10 gig movies every minute, right? Everybody downloads a 10 gig movie every minute, which you shouldn't, because that's not right. then we need that. So my take, Solaris, is that we have built an infrastructure which is well beyond anything that we actually need. So the question then is, who needs it? Right? Who needs it?
Mm-hmm. Good question.
Okay, so my take on it, it's using the millimeter wave bands. They're only a millimeter big. So it's greater than, because your current mobile or cell phones are using a technology which is less than this. And they're using 28, 38, and 60 gigahertz. That's really small, by the way. That'll go through the screen that protects you from your microwaves. Microwaves are bigger. As we know, every energetic waveform that's above visible light is dangerous to humans. Every single last one of them. You can't say, but gamma rays, they're safe, aren't they? No.
They're good on your cornflakes.
They are. Delicious. It turns you green when you're angry. Is that right, Becky? Right?
That's what happens.
That happens to Bruce Banner, isn't it, Bruce Banner? So 5G, like, do you really want 100 megabits per second on your phone? You might if you want to stream 16 16K movies, right? We don't have 16K movies, but once we do, we might want it. This is one of those cases where the technology has, and we've been dreaming of this. I'll tell you, to be honest, we've been dreaming of this kind of speed, but what's happened is all the brakes have been put on and the development has occurred with the brakes on now, so that we're not leaping forward in screen tech and bandwidth because there hasn't been the bandwidth. This might do it But is it good for us? I reckon it's going to be like cigarettes, Mackie, to be honest. I reckon they're talking up how it's good for your T-zone, in the olden days, and we're all going to suddenly die. Right?
No,
because of all of these
it's flavor.
bandwidths. You have to
Flavor country.
They're ready to sell to someone else. Imagine the land taxes the government would earn. Now, this is the only problem that I have with all of these things. They're launching it, the 5G, and go, oh, it's totally harmless. Well, who said that? Well, that guy. Well, did he do any tests? Well, he's had the thing on his desk for a while, and he looks all right. Right? His insider cooked. He's cooked on the inside. He's basted himself well with some lovely oil, maybe some rosemary. He'll be delicious. But this is what I'm saying. They did the same thing with everything that we've been able to enjoy so far, and we've found that it's all bad for you. So,
well, they used to march people into the blast zones after a radioactive explosion. Let's see what happens to those guys. Let's just do a long-term study. No, of course they don't care. Of course they don't care. And that's really the kicker.
Where was it in Detroit, Mackie, wasn't it? Where they just sprayed chemicals from the building tops to see what happened to the people later on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they've done various things. And Solaris, you're of course aware of this. Obviously there's that, but they've also put radioactive materials in drinking water. There's the Tuskegee, the Tuskegee experiment. People were actually not given a herpes vaccine when it was available, or even a cure, because they wanted to study the effects. And these were all African Americans back then in Tuskegee. Then you had also the case of Montauk, where universities and schools collaborated with the government to conduct studies on the mind control. And would they do it to us? Yes, they would do it to us. And people find it hard to believe.
It's already being done. Yeah, it's already being done, even
yeah.
it's discreet. I mean, but people may not be hearing a dialogue, but they're getting hit transmission-wise, and that's one thing people need to be looking at there. But, the military applications, once again, you were touching on, first of all, the formula behind the internet, and now that we're looking at the 5G, I mean, I'm sure that's another military application, even though it's not being deployed that way, or in the illusion of, right? So you have to ask yourself, why do they need that kind of first of all, frequency bandwidth, and also I think there's so much more that can piggyback onto that can be very detrimental,
Completely agree. I mean, guys, look at what Hitler did prior to World War II. He built a fantastic infrastructure of Autobahn roads, like the freeways essentially in Germany, right? Really, really, really well-built roads all over Germany, right? For his tanks. He built them for his tanks. But it wasn't but the thing is, it was an infrastructure improvement for Germany. Yay! And every German got a radio. Every German got a radio. How? Why? Well, so he could talk to all of them. So he could propagandize them. That's not a word either. All of them. I mean, none of these things are coincidences. And when these things happen, Solaris, like 5G, Dave, the internet, like you said, do we need all this? No, it's not necessary. But there it is. Someone does. Hitler needed the roads for his tanks. There weren't that many cars in Germany in the 1930s. There really weren't. Right?
Anything like that. That's right.
Right? Just didn't. Anyway.
Mackie, my toaster wants to watch 16K movies.
Yeah, my fridge too. Yeah. My fridge and your toaster should get together.
Well, they're going to. Sure, I say within 5 years' time, they'll be talking to themselves or amongst each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like
there was this thing.
To bring up that example, Mackie, where Facebook algorithms, the computers developed a language to discuss stuff between each other.
Yep.
And we didn't know what they were saying.
Nope.
To each other. So we had to, we as humans, we had to can it. Now, that's Facebook algorithms. How long do you think that'll be before it's in an uncontrolled environment?
Oh, yeah.
That's my question. How can it be that in a controlled environment with coders and people with I'm being awful, but the dark ring glasses with the Band-Aid holding them together, coding in a safe controlled environment where they could turn it off. But that's a point at which we're about to cross. They crossed it in the lab, not far away. It's going to be in real life. Suddenly, all the devices are talking to each other, and that's the end of us. I think. Really
no, hang on.
Shortly after they start talking to each other, they're going to go, "These humans are useless."
Well, see, that's okay. So they start talking to each other. That's okay as far as I'm concerned. It's only when they start realizing they don't like us, right? Like you said there. What if they don't like us?
That's about a millisecond into the conversation.
Maybe.
Because
self-aware.
So Solaris, yes. Have you seen the video of Boston Dynamics? How Google had bought them for in working with DARPA and the like the bipedal robots, and the guy's got a hockey stick, and the robot picks up the box and he whacks the box out of his hand, right? And then he pushes it over and it just gets up. Who's the first dude to be killed when they go rabid on us, right? That guy with the hockey stick. They're going to hunt him down. I remembered you. It won't be if you've seen Sarah Connor, a little picture. It's going to be a picture of that dude. They're going to go door knocking until they find him. They're going to take that guy out. Then they're on to the rest of us.
Well, I can't say I blame them. That's the thing. It's just manners 101. I don't care what it is, what type of a life. Well, it's not even a life form. They're robotic at that point. But,
that's the question, Solaris, right? I mean, at what point and how self-aware? And the thing is this: I do believe in I might earn some hate points from people out there, but I do believe to some extent in animism, meaning I do believe that everything is endowed with a life force or a spirit, and I don't think it needs to necessarily stop at machines, right? I mean, we all have a machine, a car, something, a computer even, that doesn't seem to respond well to something. And then you knock it or you do the right thing, and all of a sudden the machine works again. These are things that are, I mean, they're real enough, right? And it's odd. I mean, I tell you what, I mean, this is going to sound strange, but I run and I cycle, and I go past the same route pretty much whenever I do this in my life, and on every route I would come past a streetlight that I would either turn off or turn on as I go past it. It would either turn on or turn off depending on the state I was in. Now I have no explanation for that, but clearly something is happening between me and that streetlight, right? So I know it sounds crazy.
Are you setting the intent? Are you actually setting the energy out to change that light?
Initially, I didn't. No, it was. But then I started. But then I started experimenting, and then it does actually. Yeah, it does work that way. But initially, I just didn't think anything of it. But then it just kept happening and happening and happening. So
I have friends that can do that. That's why I asked you. They actually can do that through their abilities. Yeah, they can literally change things. And then there's also the mechanisms you can get too. I mean, a lot of people use the devices where you can actually change lights, but that's manufactured electronics. Another thing would be that maybe you have some implants, but I'm just looking at different levels. Yeah,
it's possible. My dental work, and this is going to sound very crazy, but my dental work started when I was maybe 5. I had my first root canal when I was in my permanent teeth. I must have been, I don't want to lie, but whenever you get your first permanent teeth, that's when I had my first root canal. One of my molars. And I've had more tooth work done than I care to think about. So, look, Solaris, anything is possible. I've been under probably 3 or 4 times. No, it's not a car, guys. This is a Project Black Beam. Sorry, it's cryptic. Anyway, no. This is me running or cycling, not a car, But yeah, so it's interesting stuff. Now, which brings me to our topic today, which will go a lot longer than just this one show, and then after that we'll pick up the Nazi technology again. But essentially, what we've been working on is the hypothesis, and Dave and I have been working on this, and I had a couple of epiphanies. Dave had some very good contributions, and Solaris has been here to witness its growth. From show 100, show 200, I think, now show 300.
Wow.
It fills 45 pages, the hypothesis, and I'm going to edit it and make it publishable. It's in a nutshell. It's what we think reality is, more or less. And this is not just what we thought of ourselves. It is the work of many thinkers, and especially in the Gnostics of ancient times, as well as modern. I don't want to call them secret societies, but certainly societies and groups that have preserved ancient knowledge. And some of the technologies we are experiencing today, or we are rediscovering today, were certainly available at some time in the past. That much is clear, but it has become, to me at least, and I'll let Dave speak for himself. For me, it has become not an article of faith, because I don't believe that you should believe too many things. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? I think we should always ask for as much certainty as we can. Of course, you can't completely be certain of everything, and faith is important. I think belief systems are a problem. I think faith is important. You must have faith, right? And so this hypothesis for me reflects 40 years of my life, researching and putting it together and making it coherent. And I look at it and I go, oh wow, maybe it really is like that. Maybe this is this is really where we're at, and maybe it's a lot more mysterious even. But my point is, I would like to thank everybody on the air in Nighthawk to allow me to dedicate the last 6 years to solidifying the research of the preceding 30 years. Because having this radio show, or having had this radio show for 300, well, this is show number 300, so for 300 instances, it has allowed me to focus each week on doing the research and creating show notes and digging deeper than I would otherwise have.
That's so
It's always
true.
easier to have right? It's always easier to have a focus. I mean, I've been trying to write a book for 15 years and haven't been able to put more than 2 pages together. I have written easily over, I want to say, 4,000 or 5,000 pages of show notes. Right? So goes to show, if you've got a focus, it's really, really good. And so it's not writer's block or research laziness. It is just being able to have a focal point. So Nighthawk and Dave, thank you for calling me that fateful day some 6 years ago.
Yes.
When you asked me, hey, do you want to be on the radio with me? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? Let's try that out. But so that's all I had to say on the occasion of the 300 and what it has meant for me and my development and research. Dave.
Oh, look, I do absolutely agree in the same way. So both Becky and I both had independent research up until when we met, and we both had certainly put a lot of time into that research, but not as much as we've been doing since we've had the show. So thank you, Nighthawk, for that. One of the things that I had no clue about, and I really am amazed at where it's taken us. So we've mentioned the stepping stones. We do that a lot. You know, it's very difficult to just throw all the information at somebody and hope that they're going to digest it, because they can't. And it's quite an experience to be able to take someone along the ride. And I appreciate everyone listening, because it's been certainly very hard sometimes, and then enlightening. So with the epiphany that Meki was talking about, that I know we both had, is purely based on those stepping stones. So we wouldn't have been able to come to these conclusions without having had done the research and the full understanding each one of the topics. Now, I have to say, Meki, we have not had any debunkers for some time now, not personally affronting us in any of our social media, although we invite them, absolutely invite people to put forward a point of view that differs from ours so we can have an intelligent conversation. Share the links, if there's links from the internet or books or whatever it happens to be, and help us get to where we're going. without that interaction, certainly in the past, Meki, with one of your friends and some others, it's been quite challenging. So,
Yes.
and I do appreciate your point of view. I'm just saying that you've actually assisted us as well in making our discoveries. So thank you very much. One of those things, Mackie, that started us, I think it was show 1 or 2, I think it was orbitally arranged monatomic elements. I really had no clue until we started researching just how important that was. I knew about, Mackie, I knew about ancient civilizations and all of the stuff strewn around the planet that helps us work it out, but I didn't know what I know now, obviously, until we discovered it, and how important that was to centralize everything. Everything seems to start making sense. Now, there's some good news. I just want to throw this out there. Next year, we're going to be talking to some experts, both from a religious point of view and from an educational point of view, historian styled access to the same document, the Mahabharata. Becky, I've lined up something awesome coming up, which will heighten our view and our viewpoints of what happened before the flood. This is the big mystery. We've got some stuff lying around. The current way of thinking, that's the accepted thought, is, well, they built some stuff and who cares, but this is where we are now. Hey, we're in high tech. Whereas there are stories that display a high tech before the flood, and they're really important. I think that we have to bring that to you. Certainly Mecca and I have an understanding of it, but we're going to bring you experts that have grown up with this. We didn't in the West, they did. So that's really cool. Looking forward to that. And Mecca, through the people that we've interviewed, and Solaris, please chime in here too. While it's our hypothesis that we're going to be bringing, is there something, Solaris, that you've discovered too with your guests in the way that this information is coming to you? You might have had an idea, but now you really, now that seems to join with this and that joins with that, and this big pile of stuff that I've had, which was like the iffy pile. There's the no pile, the confirmed pile, and then the iffy pile. And then you start pulling stuff off the iffy pile when you learn more, and you go, hey, that actually joins together. It's like doing a jigsaw puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the blues, the reds, the greens, and everything, and you've got some picture bits, and you've got the edges, and as you start putting the pictures together, it starts to make sense. You go, oh, I've got a picture bit now. Oh, okay, well, that's going to go exactly there, and this is what happens. How's it been for you?
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. It's the same way. It's like a little fractal of data. With each person I interview, there's always something that correlates to whether it's another guest or a topic. It just seems like it all dovetails into another more expanded version of what's really going on, and that's all behind the scenes insofar as what's really happening between the veils of what's here on this world, because it's all modulating waves and frequencies, as you all know. You talk about consciousness, and I don't know if you really talked about it yet, but the concept of what's been going on, or what this world, or what reality is. And I think that's a really good question, because in my opinion, reality doesn't exist. It's all about frequencies and modulation of waves and how we perceive it through our own multidimensional design. But that's just the way I see it. So yeah, I've had some very interesting guests, and I'm very happy to say that it's been a good long run insofar as the people I've interviewed. They've been very high quality with their information. And I think that everybody has something important to say. And it may not register today or tomorrow, but it will register down the road.
Oh, there's some enlightenment right there. Do you know, I've found the more answers you get, the more questions it leads to.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true.
It's like coming up the ground into a tree. It's very difficult to get the whole picture. It's very difficult to get all the answers. And when you find one answer and you go, oh, hang on, wait a minute. Now I know that. I've got to ask these things. And now you've got to try and find those. It's the rabbit hole, if you're looking the other way around, is so complicated and deep and it goes in all sorts of directions, and it was tugging and pulling us in different directions. And sometimes I've not agreed with Meki, and then I've come around, and sometimes he's not agreed with me and he's come around, because we're in the same data, and it just seems to make sense. And then it confirms, and you get a confirmation, and you just keep leading down this path.
Yeah. And two things: the more you open yourself up to these things, the more they seem to come to you. The universe, I think, responds to your questions. Secondly, ignorance truly is bliss. I mean, I always used to, listen to hear that old saying, ignorance is bliss. And I thought, yeah, sure, it truly is. Ignorance will make you happier than knowledge. Knowledge is not a good thing. Like, I mean, if you're looking for happiness in life and contentment, knowledge is not your friend. Okay,
that's true.
In fact, the more you, right, the more you know. Go on, yeah.
Oh no, we're both laughing and agreeing with you, Meki. That's absolutely true.
Right, yeah, because if you don't know, you can live a life. You can immerse yourself in the matrix and go, oh, I know this is not a steak, but good Lord, it tastes great, right? And you can. It's but whereas if you become a questioner, a seeker of truth, or whatever you want to call it, then you have to be prepared for some of the hard answers that to your questions. I mean, are you prepared? And this goes to our listenership. Are you prepared to abandon everything that you believe in? Are you prepared to abandon your point of view? The one thing people fear the most, apart from public speaking, is change. And there's the music. So change is what people fear, and that's what we bring. But don't go away, people, guys. People, stay. Listen.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You'll never guess, but you're back with Dave and Meki's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com or revolution.radio. It is now. On the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net, so push the donate button or subscribe to the archives for only $5 a month. Think about what that is. That's a coffee. One coffee per month. That's all.
These days, that's a coffee. Yeah,
these days, you wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow it's going to go. Meki, petrol. You know the 98 oxo. The 98 fuel. Yeah. $1.74 it was a litre.
I know. It's a travesty.
It's just profit. It's profit, and it's leading to Christmas, and everyone's going to drive their cars and go somewhere for on holidays, so they're just ramping every single day. It goes higher and higher. There's no need for it. Anyway, so I'd like to say hello to all the new listeners out there we have today. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for following us and doing all those things and liking, all that stuff that's positive in social media that we bag out so often, but thank you anyway. We are halfway through. That's going to do good. We'll get demonetized for sure yet again. Thank you. We're halfway through show number 300. 0, and 300.
300. Yeah, it doesn't really sound good. No, yeah, it is 300, and doing it my way, it doesn't sound any better than saying 300. So we'll leave it at the 300. It's all goodness.
So
now in the background you can hear my children not wanting to bathe. I think that's what you can hear.
That happens. Hey, we just.
Can you? Oh no, I don't know. Maybe you can't.
Well, we could.
Look, having said that, it happens.
It sure does. And you know what? This is show 300, and as usual in the 00s, we have. Well, it's become a thing. Solaris is on. Hey, say hey, Solaris.
Hello. I'm very happy to be here. And I just want to say, I think the world of both of you. I think you're both incredible people and also very educated. And I'm very happy and proud that you've been around as long as you have. So keep up the wonderful work, by the way, with Shiny Side Out.
Wow.
Thank you.
I am blushing. Thank you so much.
Well, I mean that. I'm really glad that you guys always your show's right after mine, and it's been tradition for a while now. So I don't know what I do without Shiny Side Out right after my show.
Well, you warmed the audience up for us. We're only kidding.
I try.
Love your show.
Thank you.
I'm not always home right before my show, and before our show, Mackie. But when I am, and I'm working on the show notes or looking through them, or working on something else for that matter, I always have Revolution Radio on, and I love listening to Solaris's guest. You know what? We're always in awe of your show. You have a great show. You have a great format. I like. Some guests are tough. And I was telling someone the other day that it sometimes it's really good to have a great guest where you say hello and then you look at your watch, it's the 2 hours are finished. And you haven't asked another
let them
question.
roll.
Yeah. And everything's just working, and the audience it's linear. The ideas are flowing and they connect to each other, and at the end of it you just go, wow, that was amazing. Or you say hello, they go hi. Oh, dead air. All right. Okay, so tough. It's going to be tough. We're a minute in, and I've got nothing. So tell me about your life. Well, it's been good up to now. Yeah. So thank you for asking. So you're into the paranormal. Yep.
And look, it can happen, but extraordinarily privileged, and as have you been, I think, Solaris, by being able to talk to the people that we have to talk to. I mean, my by far, because I had been such an admirer of his, and I had seen him speak a couple of times before he passed. It was Jim Morris. I was so glad that I could talk to him. Same with Lloyd Pye. I went to pay good money to hear those guys speak. They came to Australia, in fact, a number of times. One was actually both. I think I heard both at Nexus conferences. And then I got to talk to those guys on their level. I can't look for you, Solaris. That's now a thing. You're up there, and and all that. But for me, that was such a huge thing. I had bought their books, read their books. I had been to their talks. But now here I am on the phone. Not face to face, but still on the phone, and talking to Jim and Lloyd. But not only that, Stanton Friedman, or we had Laura Eisenhower. We had Carrie Cassidy. We had yourself, Solaris. We had Jose Escamilla. I mean, this guy actually made this amazing moon documentary, and fantastic. We got first look at it. We got first look at your book and your documentary as well,
Absolutely.
Solaris. I mean, we have been extraordinarily privileged. Friends of ours recently made a movie, and they chose to come to us for the first interview. Thank you, everybody, for giving us the privilege of being part, in a way, of your lives, of your achievements. And it is humbling in a way, right? And I know we're on the fringe, guys. We're all on the fringe. I get it. A lot of people think, what a waste of time, and how crazy are those guys? But that's what they said about everybody that had a new idea, or that asked a question that nobody wanted to ask, right?
It's a really good point you make right there, because I can remember, I had with Gary David was just on my show not too long ago in hyperspace, and he wrote the Orion Zone, and I remember reading that book a long time ago, before I even knew I was going to be in radio. And I thought he was a really cool guy, and I really liked his work. And yet here I am interviewing these people over and over again. And you know what? He has a new book out, and he actually mentioned me in my show in that book. And I thought, wow, that's just so cool.
Wow.
So when you look and you see,
cool.
You don't realize what kind of impact you have on people, and there's no ego involved at all. It's just about respect, and it's so nice to we're in a circle of different types of people right now who are just phenomenal in their own field. So I consider it to be an honor and a privilege too, and just with you all as well. You're brilliant people, and your background in information technology and a lot of other things in software. Everybody has a special ability, a special gift, and I think we're all coming to a level of consciousness where we're decoding the illusion, and I think that's a big deal.
Yes, I agree.
But it's
funny though.
It's
you
right.
don't,
In this decoding of the reality is, I actually, to be honest, I found it difficult. I found the whole process difficult, and this decoding of reality became a surprise. There was a surprise around every corner, and earlier at the top of the show, Meki said ignorance is bliss, and you're absolutely right. You can just turn the TV off, you can turn the internet off, and just sit down and go, you know what? I'm me. This is what I want to know. You can do that if you like. That's remember the red or the blue pill, right? Do whatever you like. But if you really want to know, guess what? You're in for a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't what you think it is.
Very true.
This is so extraordinary that you have to adjust to it. You have to. Your way of thinking has to change.
Yeah, that's struggle. It's a big struggle. It's a big struggle.
It makes you want to go back to sleep.
Struggle is really what makes it. Oh, it does.
Seriously.
But it does, guys. It does. It does.
Yeah.
Because the thing is this, and this is not. I'm getting serious. I'm sorry, but I mean, some researchers met with untimely ends. Some people that ask the wrong questions have met with untimely ends, and this is well, it's not constantly. Yeah, well, it's not constantly in the back of my mind, but certainly it is there. I mean, especially. I mean, if you're alone, and you don't have any family, then I guess more or less that's okay. But there's still people in your life that you would care about, even if you are if you don't have any family, there'll still be friends, associates. But if you have a family, then you also have to think about the impact on them. I mean, this is the thing, Dave, and I'm thinking you've got daughters, and I've got daughters. But what if they go to school and their friends discover that we do this? What is the impact on them, right? Will they be strong enough to withstand this? Because I mean, when David Icke first had this information download and he made a complete ass of himself, he said, I needed to do that in order to be free. But he also said there was a massive impact on my family, right? And this is something that people don't realize. Even if we do it for the glory or for the money, there's no money in this. There's no money in this. There isn't. There really isn't. I mean, could someone make enough money to live? Sure, you could make enough money to live if you speak, write books, and all that. Sure, but you would not be rich. This is something that is driven by something other than the need for monetary gratification. This is a need to know the truth and then communicate the truth, or not, maybe not the truth, but certainly, what we discover. Let's call it discoveries, right? Because truth is such a huge word. Because again, and people say, you do it, for attention grabbing. This is the kind of attention you don't want. It's not the attention that you're looking for, right?
Right. Negative attention isn't good.
So
right?
wait. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yeah, I can take the heat. You don't want this kind of heat.
Yes. Yes. That's right. But that's. I mean, I see on popular television. I see constantly. I see researchers being made fun of, misrepresented, misquoted, presented as complete coups. And it's okay. I mean, but I understand why people do it. It's to discredit and because to create this sense of comfort for themselves and for everybody watching. Because if we, all three of us, say these outrageous things and let's say they're true, if someone can come and debunk us and say, no, it's not true, and everybody else go back and drinking your soft drink and eating your meat substitute or whatever it is that you have there, it's no longer real meat. Anyway, the point is, go back to your lives. Don't listen to those guys. We've completely debunked them. Everybody will be going, oh, all right. It's all just a bad dream.
Exactly. Well, I have to tell you, had I not been pulled into what happened to me in 2004, I really wished I was still married and had my normal life. I really do. Right. And that's why when I look at both of you and you have normal, balanced lives and careers, I think that's wonderful. And I encourage you to keep that because you don't know how important love and relationships and family are until they're gone. And that's a big deal. So I'm just telling you point blank. I mean, it's a big deal.
Well, I appreciate that.
And I only think that we've been able to do what we've done because of it. It's very difficult, and I completely agree. I can't imagine finding out all of the stuff that you found out and being able to keep yourself in one piece. That's extraordinary. Well done, by the way, Solaris.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been weird.
I know that it isn't easy, but certainly it's tough for those people who are making the transition. If it's a really sudden one, it's quite difficult on you. But if you can put your toe in the water and find out a little bit more, then a little bit more, and then And so it doesn't shock you. Do you know what everyone asked us, and I hope they ask you too, and that is, how do you deal with all the information? How do you cope? How do you wake up in the morning? How do you go to work? How do you do all the things you do? And how do you keep it all together? And you say, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
You can't worry about it. You're learning. You're learning.
Yep.
And the learning part allows you to make your own adjustments as you go along. Until you're like Becky and I now, I think we're in full acceptance. We've graduated through the 10 steps to get to the end. We're in acceptance. We understand it's all there. This is the way it is. But it's really difficult to go from your home shops and work environment, which is that's your fog of war. You choose to only see that stuff. You choose to believe the mainstream media. You choose to believe the history books, the reprinted in 1956 or whatever it is that I was taught.
It's too expensive to reprint. It's too expensive.
But it says reprint. It was reprinted. It's the same. And only the winners.
Wow.
The winner's story is what you're taught. You're not taught the loser's story. It's different. There is a difference between the two stories of the same event. It isn't like it was merged together into one and all of the things that were wrong were corrected and you're just learning the truth, because there's the truth, like on The Simpsons, and then there's the truth. And the second one is the one which is just a packaged bunch of lies, effectively, which is a combination of real events and then some things padded around the outside. I remember my engineering science book didn't include any modern technology after steel was made. It didn't have chronology.
What? They made steel now?
Yeah. Wow. Oh. So I have in my example when I was first talking to Meki when we were first on air, I made an example about a bicycle, and the bicycle was the bicycle I was riding to school. It had plastic wheels, aluminium components all over it, or aluminum, depending on which country you're in. It had chromoly frame. It wasn't steel. It was an alloy. And the book that we were being taught didn't have any of those materials in it at all. Not even at all. And my frame didn't match the frame that was shown in the book. And I said, well, look, this is the frame of my bicycle. And you go, you can't know that. I said, but I ride it to school every day and home. Yeah, but see, that's not going to be on the test. But can I bring my bike? Can I bring my bike into the classroom to teach people about the way that the engineering has changed since this book was? When was it? 56, 1956. I mean, I'm sure they're still making those bicycles right now in China.
Yeah.
Right, the steel bicycle, right, which is still being made, but not here, dude. Seriously, this is. You're teaching us something from the past. What are you from the past? I love that phrase. I'm using it so often now. There's a funny sketch, this funny scene from a show called The IT Crowd. And he says, have you turned it off and on again? The on button. The button on the front. Is there a light on? It should be green. The light should be... Okay. Do you know what a button is? Are you from the past? You don't hear the other person's part of the conversation. It's very funny. Right? And so look, we're faced with this. We're faced with an exact version of that in our lives every day, and that's what's really tough. It's very tough to be able to translate what we know, all three of us here as hosts, what we know to people who don't know any of it. So where do you start? And that's the hard part. Yeah. So by being able to gather all this together...
And that's what this show has been about the last 6 years, right?
Exactly. So, Solaris, do you encounter the same thing?
When it comes to people, yeah, absolutely. Because first of all, most people think I talk too fast, which I've actually slowed down over the years. But secondly, yeah, it's usually the data stream is way over their heads or their education insofar as where they've been and what they've been exposed to. So I wind up having to educate people. But what I've done, I put my books out and the documentary, so I calibrate people that way. If they're really interested, they can just dive in and digest it at their own rate, their own pace, and that seems to help them. But yeah, it seems to me like we're in a world that's distorted and A lot of people are in a linear world, you know. They're in the linear dimensions versus the multidimensional space. And, you know, what I know is literally way out there. I mean, it's way black science. So it is hard to talk to people about it, but people are getting more and more educated. And I think that Hollywood is starting to talk more about stuff like that. So once again, people are getting up to speed in a different way.
That's true.
Mackie, you mentioned,
and that's really the important thing.
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh, you mentioned something just a little bit earlier about artificial meat.
It's expensive though. Keep going.
I just wanted to say
Wow.
that this week, for the first time, they've sold artificial meat. I don't mean a soy, example of what meat sort of is the same thickness of, or whatever. But it was actually a chicken meat that was grown. It was grown in a lab,
from stem cells,
in a facility, and then just chopped up and made into, like crumbed and put into a burger or something. But I predicted this 30 years ago, and finally, I can claim that one. Yay! I got a whole bunch of them, and when they come true, I can claim them. But that's the best one. And I figured, and I've been asking people who are vegans or who are just simply vegetarians, or have made a conscious decision not to hurt anything on the planet. Because then when you say, plants have feelings too, that's the wrong direction to take the conversation, trust me. But when you say, what would you do if, you genetically engineered from a dead chicken cell, a meat cell from a dead chicken. It lived a perfectly happy life, was patted, fed, never had one worry in its entire life. It died of natural causes, and post-death, a single cell was taken, and then forever, we could grow meat for the rest of eternity. And would
Pretty
you
wild.
eat that? Would you eat that meat? And they go, oh, no, it's animal products.
What about a replicator? Is it the same as a replicator? I mean, what's the difference between doing
there's
something like
no
that and a
difference.
replicator?
Good
There
point.
wouldn't be any difference with their Mackie.
No, guys. So this is really the thing here. So most vegans and vegetarians don't like the idea of hurting other living creatures. Got no issue with that. Makes perfect sense to me too. Having said that, now if we are taking stem cells, which this is where my belief system comes in, the animist. Do these cells already have a living spirit? Yes or no? That's the basic fundamental question you have to answer for yourself. If you think they do not, then there should be no reason at all why you can't eat that, even if you're a dyed-in-the-wool vegan. Because no animal was killed, no animal was harmed, no living, breathing creature with a face had to die. This is we're talking about a cell which was taken, to a lab, as it were, and grown in a vat into the fibrous substance as meat. So from that point of view, it should be fine. The replicator Solaris is actually very interesting as well, because the replicator reorganizes. If we're talking about the science now, right? It reorganizes energy into matter. So you're starting on an even more pure basis. Right, yeah. You're not even looking at stem cells. You're looking at energy, and what the replicator does, at least in Star Trek technology, and in fact we're not that far away from it, by the way. It can then take that energy and reconfigure it into matter, any matter,
anything
for that matter.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Could be a cup of tea, like Picard had. Right? It could be a steak or raw slugs, like Worf would eat, or whatever it might be. But the point
I want
is,
a replicator.
Yeah.
Well, I want one too. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, science fiction has been talking about replicator since forever. I mean, Robert Sheckley wrote a fantastic one about a replicator that became a sex addict, so it kept replicating itself. Right? It's a really funny story.
That's funny.
But this is right. It is. Trust me. He's a great writer, Robert Sheckley. If you haven't discovered him, do. He wrote in the 50s and 60s. But the point is, at that point, we no longer have this morality of having to kill for meat. I mean, we don't have to kill to live now, if we really didn't want to. But if you still wanted to eat meat and all that, you no longer have to kill. Now, unfortunately, at the moment, this particular meat Dave was referring to is like $5,000 a kilo or something. Mm-hmm. That's how much it costs. But wow. I mean, it's just a prototype. Yeah, it's just a prototype. And eventually it become a bit cheaper, and in fact, it become more sustainable than having herds of cattle.
Exactly.
or pens full of chickens, right? And as soon as you can turn it back, I guarantee you, people will turn it into the regular thing. So the morality, it becomes, and this is the point I tried to make earlier as well, around what we can do today is way ahead of what we can cope with. Right? Our thinking, our ethics, our morality, I don't care what you want to call it, our philosophy hasn't caught up with all the things we can now do. Now, there was a fake news story last week around the Japanese restaurant that was paying people $30,000 for their body and then serve them up as meals. It was a fake news story, but people believed it. People believed. There was a bit of outrage, but when I was told, friends of mine told me the story, but they weren't outraged. They were just going, oh yeah, well, someone in Japan opened a restaurant and selling human meat. Oh, but it's okay because they're paying the people $30,000 whatever dollars. Yeah, because I mean the things that when they die of natural causes, they harvest the body, whatever. And I thought to myself, no, I don't care. It's wrong. It's just wrong. I don't care what the mechanism is or the process or how much money they're getting paid. But then you could argue, well, what about medical experiments? What about organ harvesting to save someone's life? I mean, that's okay, right?
Unless you're in a
I
Chinese
think that's
prison.
Okay.
Right.
Well, then that's
that's
See?
you talk about the artificial meat, but it looks like artificial people that'll be next. I mean, so far as using stem cells to create all this other stuff, or stem cells rather. So yeah, it seems to me like that's where we're heading, and harm none, but just clone everything, I guess.
To clone everyone. Well, it might just happen, right? It might just happen.
And who's
that's
to
what I mean
say
by
it
this
isn't
world.
happening?
You're right. It's
That's
way
right.
out there. It's off the charts. I mean, as far as where we're at, we are in a science fiction world colliding with a third world mentality and program. So it's very interesting.
Yes, you're right.
How
Completely
far?
correct. That's actually
How far
right.
do you think they might have taken that anyway? The cloning of people, because they put all these. They supposedly put bans over everything. Now, you can't clone any people. You can't clone this. You can't do that. You can only use stem cells or whatever. But now they're making stem cells from fat cells. So it's like a whole bunch of lipo fat cells. You can make as many stem cells as you want. So, do you think, Solaris? What are your thoughts on this? Because I sort of agree that they're probably already doing it or have been doing it. There's just that the labs aren't reporting it. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Black Science Department has been doing cloning for a very long time. But I also know with the heterodyning that they were able to clone personality traits onto a target, which means they can create a personality based insofar as what they want to create with the Black Science Department. So you'll have a personality overlay onto your own host body, which will be foreign, which will be a cloned personality. And that's happening. That's been happening since before I showed up on the map. So that's cloned heterodyning, and they do it all the time. And that's where these people get these quote-unquote multiple personality disorders, but they're not multiple personalities. They're actually a cloned personality onto the target. They get integrated in.
Do you think that's better than having a sleeper, like a trained sleeper or someone who was inadvertently trained?
I think it's the same thing, actually. I think because what you're dealing with is a personality based on, a cloned personality based on the covert division. They create whatever they want out of this personality, and then they overlay it onto the target. It integrates in. Eventually, it can be slept, and then it gets activated through frequency or a trigger. So, yeah.
Rosebud.
That's real stuff. That's not a game. That's the real deal. So, yeah, that's why you see other people...
Yeah. I just remember the movie where the person received a phone call and all they heard the word was Rosebud, and they hung up and they went and acted upon the pre-programmed program that they were given. Yeah. So if you could just do it as a frame of a television movie or whatever it was you're watching, any kind of media you're into, it could just be a phrase. It could be it sound like a mistaken phone call. There's a tone or whatever.
You know what's interesting? I was thinking, with all the technology I was interfaced with, it was always busy. Everything was always busy in my head with narratives and imagery and everything else. And what I realized later on was when things started to kind of subside a little bit was the aspect of when we're not in that busy mode, we are almost comatose. Yeah. And I think that's programmable area. That's a programmable area. So I'm almost asking myself, it's almost better to be mentally active than to be lulled and just slept in a different alpha space all the time where you can get programmed so easily.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out to you because I did notice this, or throwing it at you because I did notice it after I was pulled into that program, and then afterwards when things started to subside, it was almost like being in a catatonic state afterwards. It's weird.
Well, I've tried to
something to think about.
To practice not thinking about anything. That's what I've actually been working on that, so that I can silence my mind and then focus on something in particular. And I should be really careful now, because if that puts me in a vulnerable position to have a program injected, I'm starting to think that maybe I shouldn't be doing that.
Well, you know what? I've always meditated before I was pulled into the program, and I can tell you I was in that space all the time of the stream of consciousness where I was in the zone. And that was a good zone to be in, because they can access it remotely and do brain hacks. But you know what? You just do what makes you happy at this point in the continuum. But I will say one thing. I did notice that for me, I'm almost so used to being busy in my head, and not that I'm hearing a bunch of stuff. It's just that I'm fast in my mind. So I like that versus being lulled, because I feel like when I'm lulled, it's more accessible to be programmed. If that makes sense. So
yeah, it does.
Yes,
I'm just talking about me. So, at least I can see what's going on in my own head when I'm
that makes
here.
perfect sense. But
Yeah.
if you're allowing because and I'll tell you why. Because if you allow yourself to be in that suggestible, or suggestive dream state, or half dream state, or you're running on spare cycles, your mind is just I don't know, navel gazing, not really engaged in some critical or serious thinking. I think that's when you're most able to be influenced by something. So I completely agree that, and I think deliberately we are all being lulled into that kind of brainwave activity through TV, through the food that we're given, through the activities that they ask us to undertake. A lot of us are in a perpetual suggestible dream state. It's a great movie.
And that's the frequency too.
Right?
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it. That's it. John Carpenter made this movie called They Live. And in one of the slogans there was, they live, we sleep. And that's true. That is completely true. We are asleep. Well, most of us are asleep. Most of the time. Think about, in fact, I mean, maybe not you guys specifically, but I know it happens to me. I'm driving, and I'm completely on autopilot, because I've driven that piece of road to work 10,000 times. To the point where if I want to go somewhere else, I might still go that route. In fact, today it happened to me. I wanted to go a different way, but I was driving the same way I drive to work, but I had to go to a different place with my family. I still drove to work. I mean, I could still find my way to where I needed to go, but I should have gone a different way. So I was completely on autopilot, and that happens to me a lot. That sometimes I tell you, I get in the car and I have no idea how I got home. Right? And I'm not talking about necessarily, not classical missing time per se, but certainly.
No, but you weren't recording.
I was. Exactly. Right.
Very interesting. Yeah, I've done that in the past. Yeah. You know what else really I find concerning is sleepwalking, although I'm not a sleepwalker. But I always wonder about that, what's taking over the host when they're sleepwalking. There's some people who do that.
I lived with a guy who sleepwalked, and he found himself on the medium strip of a 6-lane road.
Oh,
when
wow.
He woke up.
Wow.
Yeah, he made it all the way there.
That's horrible.
I went, what am I doing here? And he was blaming me for doing it. I didn't know.
That's creepy. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. So
when people do that, they're not aware of it. Yeah.
So that means that you could, obviously you could program someone to do something like that.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is that they are programmed, and that's an alter that's actually manipulating them when they're sleeping.
Wow.
Yeah. You could call it a contactee, but I mean, I think that there's more insidious things happening than contactees. So
agreed. So with all with the way the tech is going, could you imagine? Just Solaris, could help me here for a sec. Would you foresee a time where the AI was doing it and not a human, where an AI was deciding what to do with people because it became sentient and knew that it had the ability?
Right. No, I agree with that. I think that that's highly possible. Actually, when people get interconnected with the technology like I've been, you have a you have the live handler real time, but then eventually it goes into automatic artificial intelligence. And that particular design work, that program learns to adapt onto your natural brainwave activity. So it becomes a little bit symbiotic, and it comes a little bit intelligent. So I would say that's highly possible that can happen. I still think that I've influenced whatever program they had. I had a great deal of influence on it. I don't know what they're using it for, but who knows?
Well, as silly as this sounds, let's just hope it's for good.
Well, other than that, otherwise I'll be the bad robot from hell coming back.
Well,
I wouldn't do that to you guys.
So, no, that's funny. So when a robot is about to attack me for some reason in the future, I could say, "It's okay, Solaris. It's okay. I know. I know the truth." And then it'll have a breakdown in front of me, and I'll give it a hug, and it'll still revert back to its program and stab me in the neck.
That would be great.
I just imagine how the sci-fi could work, but
right?
It would still kill me anyway because it was programmed to. But
well, these algorithms, the whole idea behind it. You were talking about the algorithms. I think that's what it boils down to. Is just it's just not even personal. It's not like these machines are actually really trying to destroy anybody. I think it's just the way their program is running, and so there's no emotional content behind it, which makes it more.
I don't think it'll have a want to do it. I think it'll just say, well, the algorithm will say, well, Dave, your life is now worthless. We don't need
It's logical, yeah, obsolete. Yeah.
Like, I sound like Agent Smith then.
Right.
And that's the way I see it. I think those two, the Wachowski brothers, I think they had a vision of the future which was so true, and I think they were trying to tell us something.
Right. You know what? When I see the Matrix, when I first see the first Matrix, what comes to mind is, because I've been plugged into the technology, is that when he picks up the cell phone and he's having these guidance through the cell phone how to get out of the cubicle, that's interconnection. If they would remove the cell phone and just show him interconnected with the technology, it's like, with this literal, synthetic telepathy, that's really what he was talking about in the Matrix, if you ask me. It's not about the cell phone. It's about the interconnection, but they didn't put that in the movie. So... But I can tell you from where I've been with the technology, that's how it rolls. It's not about holding a cell phone. You are the cell phone.
Yeah, that's psychotronic, right? Artificial psychotronic.
Well, the psychotronics are the force visuals too, but the synthetic telepathy, live feed real time with the handlers, the ability to basically interconnect you with technology so that you're able to be a spy bird, which means you can see around your perimeters. They can show you what's going on around the corner. This is why I say it's really good for spy and surveillance, because they can tell the host or whoever it is that's interconnected with the technology what's going on around the corner. And no one's going to know the better between them, the handlers and the controllers and operators. It's a fantastic system, and it does work. It's just that it's being deployed and used and misused. So
well, they had to learn how to use it, I suppose, right?
Yeah, well,
I'm not defending them and their misuse of it, but it could go sideways on them real quick.
Oh, it does. And that's the problem. I said the pros and cons. I put the the remote series out. I actually said this is what you can use it for. This is what it can be done with it on a positive, and this is what they're doing with it, which is negative. So, but everything is weaponized, as we all know, and it becomes militarized, and then it becomes a weapon of war right down to the body. So it's entirely up to them and what they want to do with what I call the host. Because when you get interconnected, you become a host for the technology. So.
Well, we know what they've done, and I know they've worked. Put a lot of effort into it, and that is when people are in a situation, normal people, untrained normal people who have to do a superhuman thing, like lift a car off a person, those kind of events, guys, that the human body can do all this stuff, and it's a way. How can they militarize that and make their own military personnel tap into that? How can they get them to do it? Thinking
right, they weaponize the supernatural. They weaponize the spiritual design work within the person. And I think one of the reasons I was a good candidate was because of the level of consciousness. I had done a lot of spiritual work. I was doing DNA activation and healing and Merkaba work to a point where I was really advanced. And also as a martial artist, I really think that had something to do with it. So I think a lot of these people don't know the potential, first of all, as supernatural beings, as spiritual beings. I don't think they know. And those of us who do know how to enhance and amplify our vibration, what these guys can do is boost it up even more. And it's not like we're like superhuman, but I'll tell you what, you don't get sick. You mean there will be things that will happen that you just don't feel the impacts, and your body just goes into override because you're getting a secondary booting system with the technology. That's how it worked. So,
how much did you?
Does it do much damage? Sorry, go ahead.
No.
It didn't do any damage to me until about a couple years ago, and then I started getting, because I believe that they were doing more detrimental streaming to a point where they were trying to harm me. So I did have some issues. I still have some physical issues, some structural issues, not severe, but not good. And then I think I told you I had some toxicity a couple of years back with radiation, which was very strange. It shouldn't have shown up, and it was. I wasn't at a nuclear plant, folks. Okay, so you have to ask where that stuff's coming from. So, anyways, but yeah, there are some things that are there, but I think that's part of just what they're willing to do for testing and what happens later on. I think it's all about experimentation to see what happens to the host. Quite honestly.
The RoboCop remake. Did you see that movie?
I haven't seen the remake. I remember the original.
Okay, well, the original was. I really liked it. That was in the days when the special effects were less than CGI. But the new one, it had this point in the movie. No spoiler alerts, but I just want to tell you something about it. There was this point in the movie where the brain was in the new mechanical body. And the scientists were talking about trying to tweak it in a different way, because the brain was still able to decide and make decisions based on morality. Like, I'm not going to shoot that thing, or whatever it is, a person. And what the scientist said, he goes, well, I've worked out a way to artificially satisfy the brain's morality component, and I can basically, like in a big mixing desk, just turn it down. So it really thinks it's doing it, but it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So from a control point of view, that personality that's being projected at you, downloaded and run, I wonder if there's a way of them being able to do that. Given the example that sleepwalkers don't know they did it. That whoever patsy they've got blamed for the latest shooting or whatever probably didn't know they did it. Do you think that's something that they'd be obviously toying with? They would have seen the movie and go, hey, we did that 20 years ago.
Yeah, it sounds like the heterodyning program. It sounds like the mixing of the signals and also targeting certain areas of the brain where you can manipulate brainwave activity and make them either desensitized or okay. So in other words, they feel good when they hurt somebody. That gives them the euphoric sensation, so they keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They can do that. I know they can do that through transmission and frequency. So yeah, this is why the mind becomes a real tangled web when it comes down to what they can do with the brain and how they can use electronic brain signals into and onto the regular person's brain, with interface. So it can get really ugly. That's why I addressed it. I just thought that it could be a monster of war, and it can destroy people at the soul spirit level. It's really terrible. When it's misused, it's a horrible thing. Mm-hmm. If it's used properly, I say it potential, but you still have to have the person who's the host really in charge. That you can't have these other people in charge because they're just going to want to. That's the problem. And if you resist, they torture you. Okay, you have to understand that I was harmed the way I was because I wasn't. So that was a problem for them.
How long?
So it's almost like getting electric shock therapy from a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
How long did that? I know what it's like trying to go to sleep with jumpy leg. I can't imagine, ECT.
When I was pulled in, like you all know this, it was 2004 when I was hit with the program, but they never stopped. The signals were interfaced permanently. And that was the problem that I ran into with my lawyer, was that we couldn't disable the technology, and that it was obviously very advanced enough to a point where I couldn't disable it. I couldn't get rid of it. We had it measured. It is a problem. It's a big. So I've learned to calibrate and transcend with technology, but I have known in the past that I've had, signal attacks to a point where they've tried to harm because I won't comply. They know that. They don't have me. They don't have me under control. I am under control by my higher self over soul super. So, and I know just enough to really probably hurt their division to some degree because I know the ins and outs of what they do. So, but that's just me rolling up my sleeves and diving in, just learning.
Well, I suppose we love that about you. That's what we love, the strength that you've got. Because without that, we wouldn't be talking to you.
No,
I'm amazed I'm still alive, but it's been a long road, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yay!
Still here.
Touch wood. Quickly. Yeah. No, but this is theory again. This is what I was talking about earlier. The seriousness of this. Dave and I guess uniquely, maybe or not so uniquely, try to make this a fairly light 2, 3, 4 hour discussion, whatever the length of our show is. And it is really, it is not a laughing matter, most of the things we discuss, but we have to present it light, because it would be too depressing. It would be too horrifying if we didn't. So people, I guess people enjoy our take on it, but these are serious things.
Yeah, it is serious, and unfortunately, there's no talk about it sometimes. Yeah, you have to kind of let people know. But yeah, no, I agree. It can be very traumatizing for people who aren't aware of this technology and on anybody. And like I said, the more we know about it, the better we can, deflect it. That's the whole idea.
Look, and you're right. So again, while knowledge is in fact not happiness, ignorance is bliss. Knowledge is our ability, or is the thing that enables us, I should say, to be forearmed, to be able to combat bad things. Let's call them bad things as a generic term. Because if you know, it's very hard to fool you. If you know, you can build your defenses. If you know, you can't just be attacked out of the blue because you're expecting something. It's like when you train in martial arts, and one of the things that you learn in martial arts is readiness and mindfulness. So your responses become reflexive, like it's a reflex. So if you're attacked, it's a reflex now kicking in, right? Because you train so much, and you also switch your state of mind into mindfulness, meaning you're in the moment. Because if you're thinking about yesterday and worry about tomorrow, forget about it. You can never win a fight. It's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So these are qualities which are right. These are qualities which are deliberately bred out of us. And the attention span that our children have is tiny. The mindfulness, or the ability to be mindful, is tiny, unless someone does practice martial arts or yoga or meditation. Chances are that person can't focus on the one thing for, I don't know, longer than 2 or 3 minutes, right? However long a commercial on TV is. Again, I think it's deliberate effort of the powers that be to make us that way, right? To create a people that are completely subservient, and in fact not even critical anymore. Because in order to be critical, you have to think about stuff. You have to investigate stuff. You have to look at it from different angles. Yeah, it's
basically just lulling everybody. Yeah, you control the hive. You can control the reality.
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And this is another. So I don't want to, but I do want to share this. And this is the one thing that the hypothesis has allowed us to do is formulate the why. Because for the longest time, I thought to myself, okay, let's say this is a Matrix-type prison thingy, right? Or where our true selves are imprisoned in these flesh prisons and in this artificial reality, whatever it might be, right? Whatever the shape of it, doesn't really matter. Why though? Why are we here? And the answer is quantum decoherence. The answer, believe it or not, is quantum decoherence. So what is quantum decoherence? So what the double slit experiment has showed us that all reality exists until it is observed. That's what the double slit experiment essentially boils down to. You're shooting an electron at 2 slits. If you measure it, it'll be behaving like a particle and go through either or none, but it'll be a particle, right? If you don't observe it, the particle, the electron, that is, will go through all the slits at the same time. It won't go through any, and it will interfere with itself. So it's called the reality wave function. It's a wave function, right? It's no longer an event. It is now an uncountable amount of events on a wave. Mm-hmm. Now, what quantum decoherence does is when you start looking at the measurement. So now you're starting to measure every other possibility, right? Apart from the one that is then selected, falls away. So quantum decoherence means you have now selected a reality. Okay. Now I know, and now I'm stretching it, and I know quantum physicists probably want to lynch me for this. But what I'm saying here is the act of observation, of measurement, of conscious measurement, in fact, right, leads to an outcome, a specific outcome. If you do not measure it, then every outcome, in fact, happens.
That's right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you put sentient beings like ourselves, consciousnesses, if you will, in this kind of framework, we are ultimately necessary for this reality to exist because we look at it all the time. So if we weren't here, this reality wouldn't exist. Seems a bit like a tautology, right? Like a circular argument, but this is why we're here, or one of the reasons we're here. Because without us, none of this would be here.
I agree with that.
It is us, and right? The way we have been channeled to think, the way our existence has been controlled right from birth, including language, right from birth, right? Is what makes this reality the way it is. If we are all completely ontologically aware, if we had the ability to look at the thing in itself, what I mean by that is, so we all use maps for everything in our mind. Everything is an abstraction. And I mean this because we're using words. The word is never the thing. The map is never the territory. We cannot communicate true intent or true substance. Not really. It's all an approximation. If we were able to communicate purely and the essence of the thing, the nomen as Kant called it, right? It would be a very different reality. But because we are bound to abstractions, which limit our minds and limit our communications, we can't make full use of our potential, and we are stuck in this. Again, it's a controlled reality, and because we were put into this. Think about the biology, Solaris, just the biology of it.
Language
You're 100%
will
right.
separate us.
Yeah, completely. Absolutely. But the cleverness of whoever puts us in these physical bodies, we look forward only. We have two eyes that look forward. So in our thinking, we are already linear. We can't help it. It's our biological imperative to be linear because we are moving forward. We have a direction we move in. If we were built like an octopus but I'm talking about an octopus that has eyes all around its body, our thinking would be very different. We wouldn't be linear at all. But because our biology demands linearity, right? Because we're facing a direction, and so whenever we're moving, we're going from somewhere to somewhere, passing through the intervening space. That is hard-coded into our biology. Imagine we didn't have that kind of restriction. Imagine we could, move through space at will, as it were, right? In any
That's
direction.
what we're designed to do. That's the whole idea, Becky.
Bingo.
We are designed to do that as star beings in suits. I mean, so we are multidimensional, so we're not really linear, although we're programmed to be linear. And
Exactly.
It's all about the deprogramming, but you're spot on. You're 100% accurate.
Mackie, I got a question for you. Wait, I've got a question for you. How do you think, it's difficult to contemplate this, but how would you think if we weren't the linear beings we were and we observed the double slit experiment? I wonder how it would turn out.
Well, this is the thing, right? Because we are restricted thinkers in our current form, very restricted. We need an outcome for certainty because that's our biology has to some extent dictated our philosophy as well as our intellectual makeup. So if we weren't limited, okay, and this is actually where it gets really interesting, Solaris, and you know this, of course. If we were in our true form, there would not be an outcome. We would be observing the wave function, meaning we would see reality in its totality. I know that sounds funny, but it's true. We would see reality in its as it really is. Mm-hmm. And I believe when you dream, and you remember the dream, especially lucid dreaming, I believe you are plugging into that, perception on a higher plane, if you will. Because in your dream, for the most part, if you're dreaming, everything makes sense. At least that's how I dream. Everything makes sense. When you wake up, none of it makes sense. In this reality, none of it doesn't make any sense. But while you're dreaming it, you're not questioning it. It is the way it is because that's just how it is, right? Mm-hmm. So our consciousness, when we dream, is free or freer. And I'm not saying every dream is like that, but I think a lot of dreams are like that. And if you dream and you remember it and you that made perfect sense in my dream. But now that I look at my dream, if you remember it, you go, that doesn't make any sense at all. Well, it doesn't. Not in this framework, it doesn't. So I believe, yeah, therefore, Dave, that the answer is that there would be a wave function we observe, and we would probably be able to pick and choose if we wanted a specific outcome, but we probably don't need a specific outcome. We're just happy to live in the total reality as it presents itself to us.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well said.
Crazy.
So I was telling a guy at work, it was only a couple of minutes now before the top of the show, I was telling a guy at work about quantum physics and the double slit experiment. And it's difficult, I think, for people to understand and to get their head around that just simply observing it, if you haven't looked at it, look it up, changes the outcome. And that's what Meki is talking about here. And the outcome is, it appears, is based on our reality and not the reality of the object doing the thing. It's an electron. It's a physical thing. It's something. It's not light. Mm-hmm. It's a thing, a physical thing. It's got mass, and it turns into a wave and doesn't behave itself until we watch it. And then it does exactly what we thought it would have done in the first place. And that's because we're driving that reality. That's, in a nutshell, what Meki's talking about. And I think that is such an interesting way of looking at this planet. How can we take that? How can we change our minds? How can we see the planet in a different way? And that's what Meki and I have done. That's what Meki's 45 pages of show notes, which we haven't touched, by the way, are describing. That's what they're describing. And thankfully, Solaris has been on, and I really love your show, Solaris. I love your work.
Thank you.
And is that what you see? Are you sharing this? Is this? It's not enlightening you at the moment. You go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, no, I believe the same thing.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think he's spot on. Absolutely. Yeah, and I know we're heading for a break.
We sure are. Don't forget,
guys, donate if you can. Listener funded.
Listener funded, and we're still here for one more hour.
The Tree of Life, in fact, it was called. And you know why? Because this is what it says in the good book. So we wouldn't become like them. What it actually says is, we have to cast them out so they don't become like us once they've eaten from the tree. Because they've eaten from the tree of knowledge. And if we let them eat from the tree of life, they will become like us. And you know who us was? God. God was us. So even in that book, as mistranslated and as it is, but even there, that kernel of truth remains. We were kicked out somewhere or whatever, so we wouldn't be able to gain immortality, or immortality was taken away from us. So this is really important stuff. And Dave is right. Today, there's no good reason for us to die unless you fall down a hole or an asteroid hits you on the head or whatever it might be. There's no good reason for us to die. Telomeres are the end of your DNA helix, essentially, and each time a cell is copied, that junk DNA, it's called, gets shorter and shorter, but it protects the real DNA, we call it, I guess, in the copying process. And at the age of about, I think it's the mid-20s, I think it's Dave, it's so short that now the DNA itself is damaged and the signs of aging start to appear. So aging is actually just a flaw in the copying process. Okay, there's no other reason we age. The funny thing is this: telomeres, which are the junk DNA, are protected or can be protected by something called telomerase, which is an enzyme, right? But it's switched off after, I don't know at what 4 or 5, maybe later or earlier.
It goes through our formative years, so up until around about 20 or so as well. So there aren't that many replications of cells that will keep cutting it in half until it doesn't exist. So and that sacrificial DNA that's the junk DNA you mentioned, it comes on, it goes off and comes on again around about the late teens, and then it's pretty much turned off, and until we're about 35 or thereabouts, there is still, it depends on how quickly your cells replicate, but the replication process at that point starts to degrade around about 35.
No, but do you know what the kicker is? The kicker is this: there is a process in the body that turns telomerase back on. It's an extremely detrimental process, but this is what happens. Every cancer cell that develops in your body turns on telomerase. So cancer turns on telomerase, making the cancer essentially immortal, and each copy of it perfect. Okay, so a cancer will never die of old age, for example. Yeah. So the argument then goes, oh, clearly telomerase is bad. No. The logic is backwards here. So telomerase is not switched on and cancer develops. No. It's other way around. Cancer develops and telomerase is switched on. Yeah. Let's be very clear what we're saying. In fact, cancer cells develop because, to some extent, because of errors in the copying process. I mean, other environmental factors, like poisons, toxins, things you put in your body, whatever. But essentially,
sun, blah blah blah.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, all that. But telomerase itself does not cause cancer. Okay, so the logic is a bit back to front here. So sorry. That's. I mean, this is the stuff. This is the knowledge we have hoped, or we had hoped to impart to our listeners over the last 6 years. And the funny thing is, people used to ask me, "Oh, just explain to me what it is that you believe," and this and that, like Dave mentioned earlier, dinner party or whatever. And it's impossible. It is impossible to put what we have put in the last 6 years into one conversation.
Oh yeah.
Even now, right? I mean, so I've put together 45 pages here with Dave, and even though that sounds like a lot, it doesn't even scratch the surface of the things that you need to understand and know before you can fully understand what Dave and I would like to convey. Having said that, it goes a long way toward helping with it, like the baby steps and so forth. And Solaris, this is, I think, why we're getting so much pushback, I guess, from the establishment, right? It's just too hard. It's too much effort. It's too much work, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, the immortality thing is a big deal, and I am a firm believer that if everything was reversed and the frequencies were changed and modulated properly, we would be in our immortal design work. And I also think that has a lot to do with light, body, and Merkaba, as I've touched on in the past with my own work. So, we are immortal beings. We will always be immortal souls and spirits. But the whole idea about being able to take our bodies with us and regenerate our bodies is a really big deal. And I believe that they did that with the ancient Egyptian mystery schools. And you can call ancient civilizations out as well, even like Atlantean types. But it's really about the regeneration process. And once again, they have gone out of their way to halt that. And when I say they, I'm just talking about people in this linear world and these cabals and these areas. But we need to change that, in my opinion. I'd like to see it all just implode and just pull down this false matrix permanently and just embrace our immortality. You guys there?
I could, yeah, we're still here. I could not agree with you any more than I do, because we're all right. I think this is what we're talking about. We are talking about this, and I think through the discussion of it, we can generate an acceptance. Now, I did mention this on the show, and if you choose to keep your blinkers on, well, that's your personal right to not want to know. The big fear with immortality is, well, there's almost 7.7 billion people on the planet. What's agenda? How does that fit with Agenda 21? Oh, well, we can't release this information to people. We can't have people live forever. Goodness me.
It's a big multiverse out there.
Yeah.
Let's go off planet. I'm the first one to go off planet.
Hey,
I'll live off planet.
Yeah. But do you know what's really bizarre? When we talk about living off planet, I mean, I live in space. I prefer not to go and live on Mars or the moon or something like that. And I'll tell you why. I know it sounds crazy, sounds odd, sounds like an unusual perspective, but that is that they say that the first people that are going to land on Mars aren't going to get any visitors. And I still have a hard time with that. And there's no return. So if you have a look at through, those websites that allow you to apply to go to live on Mars, because they're pushing for this by 2023. Okay, so we have missions. I think there's 4 different groups of people that are trying to get spacecraft up and running. Elon Musk is one of them. But why? And why state that no one's going to visit? What happens to Earth? Why move people there, and why won't there be any visitors? That is so
Well,
stupid. It's the stupidest thing, isn't it?
yeah, it is. And also, who's to say? I'm sure that that's already occupied, first of all. That's one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, jump
So, and the whole
rooms.
idea about no return is very interesting as well, because I don't believe that. So you have
Mhm.
to ask what the motive is behind all of that. But once again, why is it always Mars too? It's a big place out there. It's a big multiverse, and we can go
Yeah.
anywhere. Why is everybody staying so close to home, so to speak, which isn't my home, but you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
kind of like I could think of other areas and multiverses and beautiful celestial worlds to explore that have nothing to do with the quote unquote solar system that we've had mapped out for us, which is questionable.
Well, in a multiverse, couldn't you just sort of step sideways into another universe,
Exactly.
and still be
That's
on
right.
Earth?
Yeah. Well, then you have the parallel.
Yeah,
Yep. Alternate reality,
because
North Stars, and
yeah,
mhm.
exactly. So maybe there's already one that exists anyway, and then they say that because of quantum mechanics, that there's 11 different dimensions, and with all the brainwave functions, and the brain is a quantum entity with quantum thought, which have also provided shows on that.
Mhm.
That there's 11 different dimensions. Now maybe we already exist in multiple dimensions that we just don't know about.
Right. Oh, I
And
agree with that. We're multidimensional. Yeah, existing
yeah,
simultaneously. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Another
have
thing is
yeah,
also, Dave, is the Antarctica thing, and it's not like I obsess about it,
uh
but I
huh.
really would like to know what in the illusion of, if at all, the Great Barrier is, if there is a Great Barrier, and if there's a grid or a jump point between here and space, traversing space without a ship, without a craft that we are familiar with.
The Jump Rope project or time travel or any of those things is something that we've looked long at. And one of the parts of research that we discovered was a small paper on time travel, on dimensional travel, where it stated that if you were to spin or rotate a tube, a physical tube, rotate that really, really fast, that the mathematics of it would mean that if you could fly through the exact center of it, time and space are distorted so much that you could go anywhere. Now, this
Hmm.
paper was, it's harmless, and it was just talking about, small scale. But what's what we've built so far on the planet that could be described as rotating a tube? The Large Hadron Collider
Hmm.
comes to mind. We're accelerating particles in a huge circuit, massive
Right.
circuit.
Mm-hmm.
In the
Mm-hmm.
dead center of that, in the absolute middle of that, maybe if you just fall through, maybe, when it's turned off, they drill a hole, into the planet. Doesn't have to have a bottom, or it would have a bottom, but when they turn the machine on, you just jump into that and you disappear. Maybe that's what the
Hmm.
whole thing was. That
Well,
the
yeah,
movie
but
Contact sort of touched on, receiving information and building some large apparatus and sending a person through it. Why on earth, on the entire planet, would you be able to convince people to give you that much money to build something that you go, yeah, I found a subparticle? Why?
well,
Gee, they must have been quite the convincing characters to be able to sell that as an idea. I would be working 25, 30 years on it. It'll be awesome. We'll discover a subparticle. And what can I do with that particle when you discovered it? Oh, I don't reckon anything, really, to be
right.
honest.
Well, you know what? There's a big difference between a quote unquote wormhole, which is what I believe they're creating,
Yep.
and a Stargate. A Stargate
Ah,
is
yes.
Mm-hmm.
basically connected to the mechanics of the multiverse, in alignment with the multiverse. Mankind is creating his own version. He's using technology that's basically creating a distortion, in my opinion, a wormhole. So when they do dial in or dial out, I think it's a distortion and you don't know where you're going. In my opinion, I would be very leery of their technology unless it's a real pure Stargate. That's just my own
Mm-hmm.
take
Mm-hmm.
on it.
I hear you
I don't know
there.
what your perception is. Yeah.
But,
I mean,
they
go
talked
ahead.
about the movie Stargate itself being created from what they'd actually found.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's not
Right.
sci-fi, it's a reality. Some of the whistleblowers have talked about what looks like sort of water running down glass on a machine
Mm-hmm.
with sort of like
Yeah.
parentheses shaped edges, and that if you walked into it, you would disappear to somewhere else.
Living glass. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like a pane of glass, but it looks like water's running down in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Mendez, we interviewed him for 4 hours. Extraordinary.
Oh yeah, I remember
information.
Bernie.
Yeah.
Talk about
Huh?
difficult interviews.
Oh, yeah.
You did great with him, though. Yeah.
He was, I think, willing to talk, but I think he was on the station for more than 10 hours straight, jumping from host to host and just kept rolling with it. It was a fantastic interview. What was really interesting about his talk, and which other people have come forward and talked about the same thing, and it's not just isolated to him, people are willing to open up about these things that they've discovered that have been created, and these are in, military strongholds, and is this jump room program. Like, there was a program opened up for that very purpose. They discovered a tech and they're willing to use it. And, I have to say that, that certainly a lot of, and they say that, art, what's that term, Mackie?
Life imitates art, art imitates life.
There you go. And so when we see something in movies, we usually work towards trying to create it. If it's a science fiction thing that's never been made ever, like the hover car. I'm still waiting for my hover car. But the talking watch, well, we made those. We've made sort of hovering things, which are pretty cool now if you haven't seen them. Sort of like the old Dick Tracy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But militarized machinery is so far in advance of what we see in public. It's just crazy. And so when someone says to me, something simple as, they've made this, and I go, I would absolutely agree with you. I have no qualms and no point of me, not one thought of mine is rejecting your idea. So anti-gravity, jump rooms, fast and light travel. We can travel to the stars, thanks, Ben Rich. We can take ET home. Yeah, absolutely. Completely believe you.
Well, that's where we come from anyway. We come from the stars. That's what our whole bioelectric field and our internal design work is made of, is a miniature cosmic design. So it has all the components of the multiverse, right? Even if we're not aware of it.
What do you think? Maybe this is like a zoo planet?
Well, I think it's something all right. I call it a terraformed rock, but the biodome. It's different. There's no doubt about it. It's different. I still believe that we're not from here and that we incarnate here and that we go home to our celestial design work and the cosmic design, which it's infinite. I mean, we can go anywhere. So that's what I mean by, when you're talking about all these technologies to take ourselves out or go to another destination, we have it within ourselves. Even the chakra system is multi-layered to a point where, in my opinion, the chakras are actually representation of dimensional gateways, stargates themselves. So when you understand how to navigate with your own multidimensional light body, Merkaba, you're able to do these things. You're phasing, you're teleporting. You don't need a ship. You don't need any of that stuff. So it's consciousness in motion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Laris, we've been led to believe that we need all these crutches. We need these crutches that like a spaceship. We need a crutch. The Merkaba that you just mentioned. That's exactly all you need. That is your everything. That's your multidimensional travel pod, if you will, right?
Yep.
And but we have been completely led down the garden path. Completely.
I think they need us. I don't think we need them. I think that's the bottom line.
Bingo.
Whatever they are, they can't get off this planet without some form of whatever device they can create. But we can. We have the gift. So.
Yep. I completely agree.
I just want to throw this out there. I was approached by my own daughter talking about reincarnation, and my simple answer was, I hope that it's as simple as the idea, the premise, that we do whatever we can to improve ourselves so we don't end up back on this godforsaken stinking planet, this third rock from the sun, this useless thing, that we could go somewhere else. That was what I was mentioning to her, because she said, I was watching this video on YouTube about some children who had remembered their past life. And she goes, I want to remember my past life. And that's where it started. And I said, well, would you only have to come back? Is this the only place to come back? did you accomplish everything you were last time? And is it almost Hindu, Mackie? Where I'm going with is Buddhist.
Well, no, it's Hindu, Buddhist. It's mostly most of the Eastern religions. You're just putting that in a pot. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Generalizing once again, but I think everybody knows that. See what I did there? So.
Well, how do you know the past life wasn't off planet? Because the first thing that came to mind when you were talking about your daughter was that she's not from here anyway.
No.
So she's looking at past lifetime. She's probably going to wind up on another planet to begin with.
Could you imagine if this was... So Mackie was talking earlier about the dream state, and the dream state being the true reality, or the true... We're connected back to the universe again, and it's only when we're here that we happen to make everything the way it looks because of the way we think about it, and that's what happens. So, because of the quantum space. If you had to... I would love to go somewhere else. That'd be awesome. I would hope to be able to do it, and I wouldn't want this to be the only thing there is. I remember, playing video games and, thinking about from the game's perspective. He's that guy again. And I come in and I play the game for a while, and I'm back out of the game because I died in a game. And I go back into the game. I use my 20 cents from... I'm old. Put the 20 cents back in the machine. I'm back in the game again. Now, each time in the game, those people see me again, but am I really me to them? I don't know. How does that make... I go in with the same knowledge every time, but maybe a little bit more knowledge as I build it up, as I learn how the game plays. So are we able to, access this knowledge as we keep playing this game? Is that what we have to do? Do we have to defeat the boss at the end? I don't know. It's a game speak. I used to do game reviews.
Oh, I like that stuff too. But, it's like a version of yourself is here now, but we exist multidimensionally, simultaneously in other worlds and universes. In my opinion, the most refined aspect of ourselves is already off planet. And what's here is a copy of us, but we're still connected. That's just the way I see it. Okay. So, but I agree with you. I think that, and an interesting thing is when we realize it's all a facade and a false matrix, that's when we win this game. That's when everything just lowers itself and we just go and we walk and we ascend out. That's just the way I see it. But,
I was trying to... I agree, but I was trying to explain something, and then that is not to you, but to my daughter, and that is that the heaven concept that the people are saying, when you die you go to heaven, and then what is it, one shot, depending on which religion, that you come back. So if you can come back with a knowledge of the past, then maybe you can make better decisions this time, sort of like a Groundhog Day. But is it
right?
Is it that place that when we're not here, is that the real place? And if this is a matrix, if this is a place that, not the Matrix the movie, but if this is a confabulation of technology to present us with something that looks and feels exactly real, then is when we're not here, is that place the real place?
I think that's the case.
Is it the cosmos?
Right.
Is the Akashic record? Are we joined in this one thing? Are we light beings?
Mm-hmm. Well, we could say we were down here or we entered onto this world just to awaken people and to break the false matrix down so people could leave. Maybe they've been lulled to so many lifetimes. If you're not lucid when you transfer out, you're going to be indoctrinated into the same program again. But if you know what's going on, like you are, like both of you, and you leave this world in consciousness, you'll already know, say, hey, man, I'm not going back. I already know the game. So then that changes everything.
Exactly. Now, you said something very interesting earlier, Solaris, and this sort of goes into, you say that we ascend. Again, to the hypothesis. So we believe there might be an event which was captured by Christians and called the, was it called the ascension? The rapture? The rapture. That's right. So essentially, what we believe, and this is I'll tell you why. There's no doubt in my mind that ancient high technology societies have existed before ours, maybe even higher than ours, and they were just completely destroyed or whatever, right? And we have remnants in history and mythology and all that. We've got some fragments of knowledge coming to us.
And
having said that,
evidence.
Physical and physical, both written word, legends, all kinds of things, but definitely physical as well. So we postulate that why does this happen? And the hypothesis, again, I abstracted, says that if we reach a certain number of us, we can I believe, this is what I believe, this is believe, this is what I suspect. We ascend automatically. In nature, there's something called critical mass. If critical mass is reached, something happens. Like if you've got plutonium, for example, or or uranium, a lump, nothing happens. It's radioactive, it'll kill you, but it won't do anything, right? So you have to bring a certain amount of it together in order for a massive event to occur. It's called critical mass. I believe it's very similar with sentient minds, and we call it the awareness cascade, where and we took the Fibonacci sequence as well as the golden ratio to work out what number that might be, and we thought it doesn't have to be, and we might be wrong, but we thought the next number in the sequence would be 7.76 billion. So once we reach that number, that automatic ascension might be triggered, and that's why in the past civilizations were wiped out and human beings were killed en masse to stop that from happening. Now, this is a complete shiny side out, tinfoil hat kind of thing to say, but we did the math, and it looked like a very interesting proposition. And the reason I'm saying this is because what we're seeing right now is a quickening, an acceleration of things. Like 9/11, to me, was almost like a trigger point, which changed the world, right? But it was such an ingenious thing, and so many people benefited from it. It's incredible. I mean, the whoever thought it up and actually executed it was a genius of the first order, because so many problems were solved for the elite, and so many things came together for them, and so many people made a lot of money. It's incredible, Solaris. So, and to come back to the Akashic record, I do believe there is such a thing, and I do believe it contains. It's like a hall of records, if you will, for us, the sentient beings. And I don't want to say human beings necessarily, but the sentients. So, what do you think of this? I mean, again, it's a tinfoil hat concept, but could there be such a thing as an awareness cascade, as an automatic ascension?
That certainly sounds like it. I know that when we reach a certain frequency, that activates our states of consciousness to a point where we can ascend as a civilization. But depending on how many people get it through the osmosis or even the inner workings, that's another scenario. But I like your theory. I think there's a lot of truth to that. So, you could be spot on.
It's a working theory.
Right, but it's still very interesting, and there's something about it that rings true. So I would be observing and seeing what goes on here. But I think we're at critical mass right now. I really do. There's no doubt about it. Well, let's hope for the best. Prepare for the worst.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you for having me on. I must say it's been a wonderful show. I just enjoyed so much being here. So thank you.
No, we loved having you. Thank you very much for being here.
And
my pleasure.
We've come to the end of show 300. 300. I didn't think when I first accepted the invitation from Nighthawk to go ahead with the show that we'd last a year.